The easy fix for the retirement crisis. Ooh. All right, so I was reading this article today by my man Nevin Adams. And Nevin Adams writes for the NBER, I think, National Bureau of Economic Research. He had written an article, and this is something different, but he was referencing this article he had written a few years ago from the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, which I found very interesting. I'm surprised I missed this one. But anyway, he looks at a proposal from Teresa Guraducci and Kevin Hassett, of all people, about the TSP for all. And I was like, yeah. Now, if you're not familiar with the TSP, it's a thrift savings account that the federal government offers to its employees. And if memory serves, I think if you put X amount of dollars in, they'll match up to the first 3%. All right. And so this proposal was, hey, let's have a TSP for all. All workers will have a TSP for all. If you put X in, the federal government will match it, basically. But that's not the solution, because the issue isn't that people have no access to a retirement plan, because they absolutely do. They have access to a brokerage account. They have access a lot of times through their employer. The issue is they don't have the resources in which to put the money in there to begin with to get the match. The cash-strapped people we're trying to help don't have the money to begin with. This is why I just don't get these people. If we just give more opportunities to invest, people will do it. They're already cash-strapped. I always refer back to it. I could never find this Saturday Night Live skit. I've looked at it a million times. This guy is like literally about to be homeless. And he's like, he calls Susie Orban, and she's on some live talk. She goes, Susie, I'm about to be put out. Help me. She goes, well, first thing is tap into your emergency fund. She goes, he goes, I don't have an emergency fund. I don't have any money. She goes, well, tap into your Roth IRA. He's like, I don't have that. It was just, it's funny as hell. I can't find that skit, but man, it cracked me up. Because the idea is, hey, if we just make this accessible to you, cash-strapped person, you will put $3,000 into your IRA, 401k, TSP, and we'll match it for the first $3,000. And they're like, dude, I have $3,000 to put in. So we had an article a couple years ago with my man Andrew Biggs. You know, I'm a big fan, long time. And then he partnered with Alicia Manel. And they said we should get rid of the tax deductions for 401ks because basically that favors essentially the higher earners. I completely agree with that, unequivocally. And that's great. I got no qualm with doing that at all. But that doesn't do anything either in terms of solving the retirement crisis on terms of the cash-strapped, low-income individuals. I mean, all these policies are good. They're wonderful. But it doesn't change anything. What changes things is that these people have no excess cash to invest to begin with. I don't understand how academics don't see this. You can make it gold-plated all day long and say, look, you have access to this gold-plated account. Like, where's the cash come from? So my strategy is quite simple. For anyone making under $50,000, we just give an immediately what's called I call it a safe harbor contribution. $2,000 goes into an IRA or some kind of a Roth, some kind of account. For every single swinging, I can't say it, you know what I'm saying, who works, and they make under $50,000, $2,000, and what a safe harbor contribution is, when I was doing 401k plans, I'm sure they still offer these, basically you can discriminate in favor of the highly compensated employees. So what would happen is if we're going to offer a 401k, if a certain amount of people don't contribute, it's discriminatory, and as such, that it loses its tax preference. So what we do is they put a safe harbor contribution. Everyone gets 3% automatically. So it doesn't matter if you're the lowest of the low, you make $20,000 a year, you're getting $600 into your 401k without having to contribute anything. It's called safe harbor. That way the dentists, I had a lot of dentists, they could contribute the max and get the tax deduction, all that too. So it's great. Safe harbor. So you put money in there without having the people have to contribute, and that eliminates any of the discriminatory things for highly compensated employees. So my safe harbor proposal is that anyone who makes less than $50,000, they get a $2,000 contribution into their TSP for all, essentially. And again, it's thrift savings plan. I just call it Roth IRA. All right, $2,000. You can't touch it until you're 60. It's not accessible until you are 60. So yes, some people die without having access to it, unequivocally. And that sucks. No different than Social Security. You can't touch, because you didn't contribute anything. It's all the government largesse that contributed to it. All right, so it's not your money. Once you hit 60, you basically are vested at that stage. All right. Now, there are 85 million people working that make less than $50,000. 85 million, according to Grok. And I haven't done any due diligence to find out if that's true. We'll just run with it. So 2,000 times 85 is $170 billion a year. Because I can already hear, how are we going to fund this? It's actually quite easy. That's $170 billion a year is what the cost would be. All right. 2,000 times 85 million is $170 billion a year. Well, we have 1.7 trillion in dividends that get paid out each year to individuals. And basically another double that to corporations. So we have about $3.5 trillion of dividends. I'm just talking about individuals here. All right, because I would actually tax the corporations on their dividend receipts too, for sure. Right now, these are mostly, the vast majority of taxes qualified. All right, qualified means they're at the 0, 15, 20. That's it, the dividends. Now, 80% of these dividends go to the top 10%. 10% of the taxpayers receive 80% of the dividends. And we're going to make an assumption that those are the vast majority of the wealthiest, all right? The top 1% of taxpayers. You know, that might not be a good assumption, but we're going to go with it just for this example. So if we raise the taxes on these dividends from qualified to ordinary income, that would generate that money right there. I've been arguing this for years. Raise the tax rates on qualified dividends, long-term capital gains, from OI to, from QDI, qualified dividend income, to OI for those making X amount of dollars, 100%. And here I'm just saying, do it for everybody. Do it for everybody. Well, that's going to hit Miss Grandma. Well, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily, because we still have that if you're in, we can still do it very easily, that if you're in the lowest tax brackets, it's still tax zero. Why? Because we can make it like that. So essentially what's going to happen is, if we have $1.7 trillion at 25% tax rate, essentially, for ordinary income, that covers well more than that. So we can still give Grandma Jones her tax-free dividends, for sure. Anyway, so the point being is that's what we do right there. Now, obviously, there's a big component here. Well, a lot of those dividends goes to IRAs and all that. I get it, man. I get it. And again, we're not even looking at the corporate dividends or anything. I'm just using this for an example. That's an easy way to cover that $170 billion budget deficit that would happen, because we're actually giving money to American citizens, all right? And it's got to come from someplace. It comes from the government largesse. All right, so what happens here? So if you're 20 to 30, all right, you're making less than $50,000 a year, you're going to get $2,000 a year into your TSP for all. That'll be the worth of 8%. That's worth $29,000 after when you're 30 years old. All right. So this is why this is so important, because we're going to get people in an account when they're young, so they can get the beauty of compounding interest. All right. So here we're 30 years old. We're now no longer making $50,000 a year or less, so we don't get any extra contributions. So we're 20 years old. We go in the infantry. We're getting $2,000 a year, $2,000 a year, $2,000 a year. We're 30 years old. We come out of the infantry, and now we're making bank as a YouTuber with a PVC pipe of knowledge. All right, so now we're 30 years old. We got $29,000 in there, and we're going to still just keep it because we don't invest it. It's invested on behalf of whatever we decide. In this case, all in the C fund. That's the total stock index, or the S&P 500 index, at 8% a year. That 30 years, 29,000 at 30-year compounding at 8% a year is worth almost $300,000. $300,000, all right? And so now if somebody who was freaking didn't have any money, any resource to put into this magical account, this gold-plated IRA of some sort, they don't have to. We're going to do it for them. And now that money just grows and grows and grows. They got $300,000 when they're 60 years old. At 60, they can take the money out into their own IRA if they want. Unequivocally. They're going to have to pay tax on that money, obviously, because it's all our money. The government contributed to it. They pay no tax. That'll be completely taxable to them. So if they pull this whole thing out, they're going to pay a huge tax hit, but they can roll it to an IRA as a 401k. It's a TSP for all. Now, if they were to continue to contribute from 30 years old to 60, at just $2,000 a year at 8%, that's $520,000. Now, that's not the equivalent of $500,000 today's purchasing power, I grant you. But even so, even that's equivalent of $250,000 today's purchasing power. It's a hell of a lot better than being broke. Hell of a lot better than having no money. And it didn't cost you anything at all. Worst case scenario is you get $150,000 in today's purchasing power. Now, obviously, we don't know if it's going to be 8%. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. Dude, that's how you do it, man. And the regular people are going to scream bloody murder about the taxation. I'm like, dude, I just don't get it, man. We have people in our country who are hurting. People in our country who are, in fact, the funny thing is a lot of the same people bitching and moaning about the taxes are also the same people who want to give more to Israel, Ukraine, and all that. I literally don't understand this. I don't understand this like thinking. A lot of these people just don't like Americans, man. Like Ben Shapiro can't stand Americans. You see what I'm saying? He would never be for this because America is second to that guy. And there's a lot on the left too. They think, I mean, look, I got a friend of mine who from high school I'm on Facebook with. He thinks all MAGA people are just white trash. He calls me white trash all the time. I say, whatever. And I say, what's wrong with being white trash? He goes, well, if you don't know, you don't know. And I'm like, I don't hate the guy. He doesn't hate me, just ragging on me. But he does not like poor white people. You see what I'm saying? And that's just fact. He's a black guy, by the way. And, because they look at us as all for, well, not me, because obviously I'm not white trash, because I'm Josh. Josh is the furthest thing from white trash. Anyway, the point being is that a lot of people, Americans, hate Americans, be it from the Ben Shapiros or the left. They just hate poor Americans, be it white or black or anything in between. And I don't. I want them to be successful to some regard, where we don't say, hey, just tap into your Roth. I know you're about ready to lose your house, but tapping the guy's like, dude, I don't. Anyway, this is how we fix it. The TSP for all is an easy fix to make this work. And it's a way to help your American citizens unequivocally. And if you think, raising taxes on Ben Shapiro, we can't do that. I don't know what to tell you, man. That seems evil to me, for sure. And the irony of all ironies, and I'm going to do another video on this. Who actually ends up paying the taxes? Is it right-wingers in Georgia, or is it left-wingers in freaking Martha's Vineyard? Come on. All right, God bless. Love to hear your thoughts. We'll see you.